Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar on resilience and mental agility. My name is Luna Rodriguez, and this webinar is in collaboration with the ISMA and the Mental Health Institute for Legal Professions. This call is also part of the Lawyer Wellbeing Week, where you have been probably attended some other webinars during this week. Before we start, I know that I've seen some more people joining, so we are recording this call. So if you don't want to be showing, you can simply turn off the camera or turn it on whenever you want, okay? So let's start just by introducing myself briefly in case you don't know me. My name, let me just...
Ya vamos, Voy a hacer una llamada y me voy.
If you can put yourselves on mute, that would be great. I could do that automatically, but Patrick and Sarah, if you can put yourselves...
Pues voy a tener una especie de esquizofrenia mental, pero...
Pues ya estaba ahora dejando un mensaje.
Okay. Yes, that is working. So very briefly, just introduce myself to the ones who don't know me so well. My name is Luna Rodriguez. I was born in a family of artists and entrepreneurs. Let's see if I can show it. Yes, like this. This is the picture in the middle. This is me in the middle of many different art works. And I think that's interesting to say because when you are born, when you grow up in a family of artists and entrepreneurs, you go through moments of a lot of change, moments of, wealth and things that are going well, and you have a lot of money to travel, do nice things, but then you also have times in which things are going bad, and you have even, basic needs. So that's living in and educating myself in that, ups and downs, made me a very resilient person. I like challenges, I like changes, made me also very resourceful and innovative. And that's what translates as well in how I work. So moving to the professional world, I was working in DuPont for 14 years in different roles, always, as you can see in the picture, with very diverse teams, and always in talent development roles. So I'm passionate about developing talent in people, individuals and organizations. And I did the same thing for 4 years, almost 4 years in Hogan Lovells, a completely different sector, the law sector. And again, in very diverse groups and roles. So that's a little bit about myself. In all this personal and professional journey, resilience has been something very interesting to me and very important for me. So what I want to do today is to share some of those learnings and to do it in a practical way so that you can take something out of this call. I would like that after this 45 1-hour call, you take something tangible with you, something you can use. So let's see if we can manage that. Before we start, I would like to first talk about resilience in general, okay? Give you an overall picture of what resilience means, and then go deeper into different types of resilience, okay? So here, just to show you, I have too many windows, so I'm going just to move some of them. Okay. So here is just to share with you one, so that we are on the same page, one definition of what resilience is. Resilience is the ability to adapt to new conditions and recover from misfortune and change. As you can see, this tree has adapted, has lost the soil beneath and has adapted to those new conditions. And not even recovered, but even thrived under those circumstances. It's a nice tree, it's a beautiful picture. So the same that we see resilience in nature, we can see also ourselves in being resilient, adapting to different circumstances in our lives. So I would like right now to ask you to take a bit of time and reflect about what are some of those examples of moments in your life in which you had to adapt to new conditions, adapt to change, and recover from it. And maybe you're in the middle right now of one of those moments. We are all in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, right? So those examples could go from something big, like losing somebody we love. It could be having a, being communicated that we have an illness. It could be losing our job, and many of us would go through that during these weeks and months. But it could be as well some day-to-day things that apparently they are smaller things, but they are as important as those big things when it comes to developing resilience. And let me give you some examples. For example, you get some negative feedback at work. Okay, somebody tells you something negative. How do you manage that situation? Or you have a meeting like this webinar, and you have some issues with the Wi-Fi. How do you manage those situations? So those apparently small daily situations are very important for you to build the ability and the habit to be resilient when something bigger comes. So we'll pay attention as well to those daily situations, okay? So I would like now, I've been reading and studying resilience for a long time. My daughter is 12 years old right now, so even before she was born. There's some, we had a birthday at the back, you can see some of the rest of the birthday. So I've been studying resilience for a long time, and I've come across many different models of resilience. So I would like to share with you some ideas, some examples of those models. But actually, what I've done for today's call is to gather all of those and simplify it in one model. And that's the one we are going to be working on. But for now, let me share with you some of those models, examples that I've came across and I want to share with you. So this one here is the PERMA model. This is created by Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology. And you will have at the end, I will give you a survey that you can do for free and individually, and it's going to give you a report of each one of those areas if you want to do it, okay? Very well-known model. This one here that I'm showing is specific for lawyers. It's taken out of the National Task Force of Lawyer Wellbeing. And again, very interesting. I will give you the link at the end as well. And here you have one of those models, right? And then I'm going to show you as well here another model taken from the US Army. And actually I spoke and I came to know through LinkedIn actually, and we spoke on the phone with one of the master trainers of this training for soldiers and family of soldiers in the US. And it's a very interesting training. It's a 10-day training. And I say 10-day in that way so that we compare, we're having right now 1 hour call. It's typical that we have, a 2-hour training on resilience. Soldiers in the US and their families are having a 10-day training on building their resilience, competencies and skills. So just to compare and just to give some perspective, okay? Food for thought about how we train ourselves in those soft skills, right? So those are some examples. And what I want to do right now is to work with you with one of them. So what I've done is to simplify all of this into this one simple model. So for you and for me, for us to become more resilient in times of change and challenge, we need to work on each one of these 5 areas. So we have the physical, the emotional, the mental, social, and spiritual. And what I want to do right now is to go one by one of those bubbles, explaining them to you so that we know what it means. I'm going to spend more time on the emotional and on the mental one. The physical, spiritual, and social, I will talk about more high level, okay? And then after each one of those, I want you to do some work. So it would be great if you have with you a piece of paper, pen, or even your phone, and use it to send an email to yourself. And you have 2 options. You can either use this option with the round thing. As you can see, you have each of the 5 areas, And you can rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1 being very bad. I'm doing very bad in that area. And 10 being, I'm great. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Okay. So this is one option, and you can use the other option with the columns. Again, the 5 areas and then the ratings. So that at the end of the call, you have, a visual overview on where you are and which areas you're good at, which areas you need to improve. So are you ready? So let's go ahead and start going with the first one, with the physical. And again, let me move here some. Let me do something here. Yes, that I can see. So the physical, what do you think do we need to work on our physical resilience? What do you think? Definitely we need to work on our sleep, right? Our sleep hygiene. We need to, well, actually for sleeping, it is very important for us for many different things, to recover, but also for learning, for the learning process. So if we have studied or work on something and we go to sleep, this is actually during the sleep that the neurons are connecting and creating new connections. So sleeping is important not only for resting and recovering, but also for the learning process. I'm showing you here, the specifics. This is taken from the book Learning How to Learn, which actually I have here with me, by Barbara Oakley, which is a very interesting book about how we learn, how the brain works. And it's interesting for teenagers as well, on techniques on how to learn. So this is where Barbara is showing this. Apart from good sleeping, it's good for us to have a good diet, of course. Also to have physical exercise, yes, naturally. So those 3 things are the important things for being physically resilient. Now, there is one concept that is kind of new. It was new to me, and maybe it's new to you, and I would like to share with you as an appetizer. So just to mention, very high level, in case you're interested to search more. And this is what is called epigenetics. Epigenetics is a study of heritable changes in genes caused by mechanisms other than changes in your DNA. So basically, this science says that our genetic is not set on a stone, it's dynamic. And there's a part of our DNA that can be changed and influenced by our lifestyle, by how we sleep, what we eat, whether we do exercise, but also how we feel and how we think, or thinking patterns. So all of those, basically everything we do during the day, even how we think, how we feel, what we eat, is influencing our DNA, or part of our DNA. And not only ours, but also our children's DNA. So I thought it was a very interesting thought to have that in mind. Again, just an appetizer, because we have many other topics to go through. So if this is the physical resilience, how are you in your physical resilience? So now if you have to rate yourself from 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself? Where would you put yourself? 1 being very bad, I'm doing horribly bad, and 10, perfect. I did this exercise before COVID, BC, and after COVID, AC. Before COVID, in my physical resilience, I was in the 5. I was okay, but not too good. I had my back problems and my things. Now, after or during COVID, actually, I'm improving my physical resilience. I'm eating better, also more, but I'm eating better, more vegetables. I'm doing more sports because I have more time. I do my yoga. I've bought a machine. So I'm spending more time. So I find myself in the 7 approximately. So where are you? Okay, take a moment to rate yourself in the physical. And then we move to the next one. The next one is the emotional. And I love this one. So my first question to you is, are you emotional? Do you consider yourselves emotional? And when I ask this, well, in a very big group, probably you would say, all of you, yes, of course, I'm emotional. Yeah, is that the right answer? But when I talk one-on-one with leaders, with partners, very often you come across people saying, I'm not emotional. You know, nobody can see through me. Nobody can see how I'm feeling. And even I remember coaching, as I was trained to be a coach, I was coaching a CEO from a Nordic company, and he was coaching me. We were training each other, coaching each other. And he was very proud of having this, you know, this presence of, even before he was the CEO, people will look at him and think he was the CEO because of his presence. That's what he thought, okay? And he was very proud of, you know, not coming across any kind of emotions, nor one way or another. But actually during and after the coaching, he realized that all those emotions had gone to his face and his skin, because it was reddish, very reddish, even his arms as well. So we realize, I mean, emotions don't go anywhere. They are there. So if you suppress them, they will go somewhere else in your body. So they will do some harm somewhere else. So it's important to know, first of all, that yes, we're emotional, because this is how the brain works, as I was explaining in a second. And second, if we're emotional, how do we manage them? So we are emotional because this is how the brain works. If you have a look here, whenever you take a decision, is first of all emotional. What do I take for breakfast? It's an emotional decision. What do I choose to wear today? That's an emotional decision. Do I say hello to this person this morning in the office or not? That's again an emotional decision, because if this is, I don't know if you can see me, but if this is the brain, this is my fist. Whenever we have stimuli coming into us through the sight, through the ears, or any of the senses, we have a stimuli, and the first place it goes to the amygdala area. I'm simplifying things here, okay? So we have the stimuli coming in, and it goes to the amygdala, first of all, which is the emotional area. And only after a few milliseconds, it would go to the rational part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex here, okay? So every decision and every stimuli would first go to the emotional part, and only after a few milliseconds would go to the rational part of the brain. So that shows us that between the stimuli and that response, there is a space, that those few milliseconds. And what we can do is to increase that space so that the response we give is balanced between the emotional and the rational. We don't want to give it to completely rational. No. That's actually wrong. All the decisions, again, are always balanced, or should be balanced, between emotional and rational. So how do we increase that space? What can we do to increase that space? So some ideas would be, well, you get that email, instead of responding, as you know, you stand up and go for a walk, or you go and talk to somebody, or you count to 10, right? You know about that rule. Or you take some deep breaths. And all of those different small strategies are giving you more time and space to give the response a balanced response that is both emotional and rational. So this is probably one of the first strategies for today, managing that emotional resilience. So the more you learn to create that space, the easier it would be for you to manage your emotions. But also it's good for us, as I was saying, to be aware, first of all, about our emotions. So let's do an exercise right now. And now I would love if we can use the chat. I'm going to use it myself, so I need to find where the chat is. Here it is. And I would like you to think about, well, your positive triggers, okay? And it would be lovely if you can share them in the chat. So think about one place that triggers in you positive emotions, one place you like. Think about one person you like or triggers positive emotions. And it could be somebody you met today, the cashier who did a favor to you today, okay? One place, one person, one activity or hobby. And it could be a hobby you haven't done for a long time as well. A song or a group of music who makes you feel good, an object, and a food. So think about it. And as you think about it, write it down in the chat. I'm going to do that myself. I need to think a few seconds. And you can choose some of them. You don't need to put the 6 of them, okay? You can put 2 or 3 or whatever you want. So. Okay, so far I see cats, babies, the sun, water, music. Okay, I see beach, music, do-it-yourself activity. Aha, fantastic. Bicycle ride. I have Gijón, which is in the north of Spain, where I come from, the beach, dancing, pixies is a group, and seafood. I will tell you about seafood later. Anybody else wants to share? Seaside, oh yeah. Bobstal, I don't know, but I will check. Meditation teacher, playing drums, sting, oh yeah, very nice. And I'm sure if we would have more time, friends, holidays, beer, oh yes, beer the first day of holidays, yes. Holidays 2 times, yes. So actually, probably we are reading this and many of us find a lot of commonalities, right? Which is also very nice. So as we are doing this, thank you so much for sharing. As we are doing this exercise, just by thinking about the positive place and activity, we are not doing it. We're not there. Well, just only about thinking, we are already triggering positive emotions and we are influencing our own behavior. So thoughts, feelings, and behavior are the 3 connected with each other. And if you change one, you can change the others and influence the other 2. So right now we're using our thoughts to influence how we feel and influence how we behave. So we are going to repeat probably this several times today, that triangle. This is the cognitive behavioral therapy or triangle, okay? And the same that, well, just that we think about the positives, but it could happen that we think about the negatives, right? And when we think about the negatives, what happened? That's the rumination part. And that happens a lot as well from time to time. So when we think about the negatives, then we are triggering negative emotions and we are triggering negative behaviors. And even not being in the middle of that place or that with that person, just thinking about it, we're triggering and influencing our emotions. So this is how powerful our thoughts are. Okay, so just to be aware about that. So whenever you feel a bit down, maybe just thinking about those positives can make you feel better. I was talking about seafood before. Now during confinement, I'm from the north, I'm from the coast. I love seafood, I love the sea, and I miss it very much. Now I'm in Madrid. With confinement, we cannot go and probably we won't be able to go in another 2-3 months, I don't know. And it's very difficult to find seafood here. There is almost none. And one day I started to think about that. I need seafood, I need seafood, I need to. And I got even headaches. I mean, I got sick and angry from thinking about something I could not eat or I could not have. So again, how powerful it is to think either about what I cannot have or choose to think about, yes, what can I eat that I like? Okay, I cannot have the seafood. let's do a, I don't know, carrot cake that I love, right? So that's another strategy, thinking about the positive triggers as much as we can and use them. So let's see if I can move the slide. Okay, so this one here is showing, we continue with emotions, and here is showing how physical emotions are. So again, becoming aware about where you feel your emotions is very important. So when you are angry, where do you feel and how do you feel the anger? Do you feel it in your face? Do you feel it in your stomach? So if you do that exercise of where specifically and how specifically do I feel that emotion, just by thinking like that and then analyzing yourself like that, you're increasing that space between the trigger and the reaction. And you are, by thinking about it, you are diluting the impact, the negative impact, okay? So that's another strategy. Whenever an emotion comes, try to stay with emotion and where is it that I feel it? How do I feel it? Just for a few moments. And that would already, again, increase that space and give you some time to react in the proper way, or to change if you see your, you feel that your shoulders are up. It may give you the opportunity to push them down or to breathe. If you haven't breathed for a time like me now. So emotions are super powerful. And this is the last comment about emotions before we move to the next one. Emotions are contagious, very contagious. We see this picture of this beautiful lady with this beautiful smile. And the first trigger, even unconscious, is to smile. You know, micro, in the face, micro, small movements, but you're smiling. Same if you have somebody in front of you angry. First reaction, even unconsciously, is, you know, to show anger. So this is how powerful emotions are, not only to our own well-being and resilience, but also to the resilience of the people around us. And even when we talk on the phone, nowadays we call our mother, father, or family, or even a client. And through the voice, through the tone of voice, we can convey also a lot of emotions, a lot of emotions. So learning to be more aware about what emotions I am conveying. What do I want to, you know, how do I want to influence this person right now? That would be amazing. So remember that emotions are very contagious. So how are you in terms of the emotional? So we have rated already the physical. Now rate yourself in the emotional from 1 to 10. Are you aware about your own emotions? Are you able to label them, to be, you know, are you aware to know where you have them in feeling and in that moment? Do you need to work more on them? So how would you rate yourself here in terms of your resilience, emotional resilience, from 1 to 10? 1, very bad, 10, and perfect. So we had a look to the physical, to the emotional. I'm going to leave the mental for the end, because that was a little bit the focus of our call today. Let me move to the social and the spiritual first. So social, we are social beings. That's so important for our resilience. So what can we do to have a stronger resilience socially? So first of all, our network. How good is your network? The personal and the professional. What can you do to have a stronger network? So this is probably one of the first points. The sense of belonging, that is so important. And we all have some way or another a sense of belonging. It could be to your family. So you belong to this particular family. It could be to a firm or an organization. And I realized doing this work here today that I have a strong sense of belonging with my companies. I still feel a DuPonter after many years. I still feel a Hogan lover after many years. So, but it could be as well here, for example, during the confinement, we live in a place with a lot of flats around. like a group of flats, and we all have a WhatsApp, and we share jokes and we share information, and that helps us because it either makes us, smile, or it makes us, know information. So that sense of belonging is again very important for that resilience. Being part of a network, being part of a group of friends, whatever. Things like citizenship, pro bono, helping others, again, very helpful in creating that resilience for obvious reasons, right? Gratitude. And I give you here and at the end a video that is, I find very useful, with 3 different tips. And one of them is to manage social resilience. One of them is gratitude. So I share with you what they say. And I'm sure that some of you know it already, nothing super new, but it's very, very powerful. Every day before you go to bed, write down, and it's better to write, not only to think, write down 3 things you're grateful for. And it could be simple things. Okay, my daughter, I don't know, gave me a kiss today when she was the whole week, a bit grumpy. Or I don't know, it's sunny today and I'm grateful because I love the sun, and at least I can, through the window, have a bit of sun in confinement. Whatever things. What are the 3 things you have been grateful for in that day? And try to do that 21 days. 21 days is the time that scientifically has been proven to create a habit in your brain. So if you do it 21 days in a row, you probably have created a pathway in your brain that would help you do it more. Okay, so gratitude is one very useful thing to build that resilience, and positive feedback, which we say it all the time, but we forget. We always give the negative one. What about positive? What people around us do right? Thank you so much the other day for calling me, for thinking about me, or for whatever. So that's another way of creating that social resilience for us and for the others. What about the spiritual? The spiritual, yes, it could be God, it could be religion, and we all know how good this is for the people who believe. It's very powerful in case of a challenge, right? And stress, or a loss, or something big. So this is one possibility. But also there are many other ways to build that spiritual resilience. And that is about meaning, it's about purpose. So what is your purpose in life and at work? Who are you? What are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? Where do you want to be in a few years? Why do you do what you do? So why are you a lawyer? Why are you a seller? Why, so why do you do what you do? All those questions build some kind of confidence and clarity about who you are and where you want to be. So somehow it could be spiritual, and it could be strategic, or strategy about yourself. So here, this table was with the idea of you thinking what are your 3 key strengths and your 3 key gaps. Can you do that in a few seconds? Could you write your 3 key strengths and 3 key gaps right now? For you, not in the chat. So for some of you, it may be easier than for others, right? If it's not easy, it's worth for you taking 10 minutes, 15 minutes time and think about previous experiences. What are my strengths and gaps? And if it's not easy, check with somebody, get feedback. But knowing this is the basis to move forward and to feel confident with who you are and why you do what you do. Another thing that is important, and we don't normally do, is actually knowing our values. The same that a company has some values and help that company to move forward and to take decisions, the same for people. So there are a lot of lists like this one here, for example, and longer list. And you can do the top 5, you have a look, choose the top 5, and then you have an idea which are your values. I remember in DuPont, we did a lot of exercises in this direction. For example, for me, safety is one of a strong value. not only for Dupont, for me personally as well. So when I go on vacation, I know, and my family knows, that I have to go to a place that is safe for me to, to be comfortable. Or for example, having fun. I really need to have fun and enjoy what I'm doing. And when there is a difficult moment, having fun helps me. Having that person that I know I'm going to laugh with helps me a lot in conflict times or difficult times. So knowing your values helps you take decisions and being more confident and resilient. So where are you in the social? Where are you in the spiritual? And try to rate yourself again. We're just missing the mental right now. I mentioned at the beginning that the US Army have this 10-day training, amazing practical training. And I just wanted to show you that this is true, that many of the things I'm mentioning today, they are also using it. So for example, deliberate breathing. The fact of simply deep breathing, which we will talk about in a second. So something as simple as that, which takes a few seconds, is free of charge. And it's here with us during a meeting, anytime, anywhere, has a huge number of benefits. The brain needs 3 times more oxygen than the rest of the body. The oxygen gives us, is good for the cells of the skin. It's good for lowering our blood pressure. It has multiple benefits just by deep breathing, okay? And soldiers do that and those exercises as well. They also work on that triangle that I mentioned at the beginning, using your thoughts to influence your emotions and your behaviors, but also changing your behaviors to change your thoughts and your emotions. We may talk about that later. So actually changing any one of those 3 in the triangle would change the other 2. So it's like 3 methodologies in one. It's an amazing methodology. And then hunt the good stuff, basically being optimistic, is also showing you here the gratitude practice. So think about 3 things each day that you feel grateful for. What they also do is thinking about thinking traps. And this is what we're going to be talking about in a few moments, okay, within the mental resilience. So we come to the mental resilience. Let's have a look and see what strategies can we have here. Only a few of them. So the first one is actually mental detachment. What does that mean? Well, are you able to how do you say, disconnect? Are you able to disconnect from work, for example? Are you able to disconnect from, iPhone, laptop? And I find myself in confinement much more connected than I was before, because now it's not only for reading and working, it's also for talking. We are using, a screen. So I feel mentally much more connected than I was before the confinement. So mental detachment, are we able to take a break? Are we able, and it has happened to me and my daughter, that both of us are more connected. So we realized that even our eyes were hurting from so much screen. So we decided together, or I told her that we should do. She didn't like that idea so much, but as of 6:30 or so, every day we will stop doing whatever we were doing on the screen and do something else together. Either cooking or reading or drawing, something else without a screen, because otherwise it was too much. So find a way that you can, have that disconnection, because the brain needs rest and your eyes needs rest. So finding as well what is called micro breaks. There are a lot of studies saying that the ideal is to take a break after 90 minutes work. So that's like the proven time. After 90 minutes, ideally take a break, small break. And that could be going, for a walk, it could be having a proper lunch, But it could be as well small things like closing your eyes. Something as simple as that, close your eyes. Even if you put your hand, you can do that right now because most of you are not on the video. If you put your hand in front, which makes it darker, it's going to relax your sight, it's going to help you a little bit concentrate and simply, you know, relax your sight and mentally become quieter. But you can also look through the window far away. And that again is kind of giving you a mental break. It can also be take a glass of water and drink some water. So there are many different ways in which we can take those micro breaks. And simply by doing that, we are helping our resilience to become better, our mental resilience. There is one thing that probably you have heard about before, which is mindfulness, right? And I would like to talk just a little bit about it. I know that probably you have had different experiences and you will have different opinions about it. I'm going to give you my opinion and a little bit of my experiences. There is one particular analogy that I love. So this is the analogy. You take a jar, okay? Imagine you have a jar at home, a glass jar, and you you fill it with water, and you put some glitter into the water. You close the jar and you shake it, okay? And you shake it, and what happens with the glitter? The glitter goes all around and moves all around. Well, this is how your mind looks, with all the ideas, all the thoughts, all the to-do lists, right? Now, if you put that jar on the table and you leave it there and you wait a little bit, the glitter would start going slower and going down, down, down to the bottom. And the water would be clearer, right? So this is exactly what mindfulness practices do to your mind. It would calm down your mind. It would relax it. It would make it clearer. And it would be easier to focus, concentrate, not only relax, but many other benefits. So this is my experience with mindfulness. Now, when talking about mindfulness, many people, lawyers in particular, but many people, they say, yeah, I don't have time for this kind of thing. I don't have time for 20 minutes. Okay. To be honest, I don't do 20 minutes normally, very few times. What I do is use it in my day-to-day. Yes, I do 5 minutes at the end of the day before going to bed, using my breath, which is the typical practice. So focusing my attention to my breath and the quality of my breath and the weight against the bed. So I use that for relaxing, but then during the day, I use it many times. I give you a couple of examples in case you want to try this kind of different mindfulness, okay? Let's say that you are talking to your daughter or your partner at home. Instead of being in the automatic mode, I choose to be there with my daughter, listening to her as much as I can and focusing my attention on what she's saying, but also on her face, her skin, her eyes, her expressions. What she says and what she doesn't say, but I can feel. So I choose to be there with her and I practice my mindfulness, focusing my attention. My mind is going to wander and it's going to go to what I have to do and I have to cook and I have to bringing back my attention and focusing again on her and again enjoying as if it was the first time I see her. That is mindfulness. That practice of bringing back my attention and again focusing my attention on my daughter and continue practicing, that's mindfulness. Somehow very simplified. So we can do that with a person and try to practice a little bit because it's difficult. So for a few minutes to be there, to be present, to be listening, to be. We can do that as well when we are drinking a glass of wine in the evening, and instead of just swallow it automatically, try to enjoy it and pay attention to the color and pay attention to the smell and the taste and be grateful for having that wine that not many people may taste it, no? So drinking, eating we can use many things for practicing this kind of mindfulness mindset of being there, being, choose moments of the day to consciously be present, basically. So if you want to know more, I have here and at the end there are some apps that you can use. Not Mindshift is more for emotions, so you can use that as well, but it's more kind of emotional resilience. Headspace and Insight Timer are very well-known applications that you can use. Okay, so you can have a look if you are interested. Also, please don't hesitate to let me know because I have a lot of materials about that. So we have spoken about mindfulness, and I would like to share with you, just coming to the close, to the end. But well, we mentioned before positive visualization, and this is what we have done with the, this is the triangle, and this is what we have done with the positive triggers, with the place, the person, the food. This is what Rafa Nadal, for example, does. He practices positive visualization, and that helps him mentally, right, to play. Many other sports people do that. And then finally, I want to share with you some thinking traps. That's an interesting, also we have seen that the US Army use those and practice them. There are a lot of different thinking traps. Martin Salingham, again, father of positive psychology, he and other people came across those thinking traps, which are basically patterns of thinking that we all fall into. All of us do it. But we do some and maybe not others, okay? There is a long list of traps. So I'm going to show you 5 of those, only 5. And I would like you to think about whether you do some of those, okay? And I will share with you some tips that you can use to manage them, okay? So let's do that together. So this is the first one, the mind reading thinking trap. And mind reading basically is assuming that you know what others think, or expecting others to know what you are thinking. Actually, I would say maybe some of you may kill me, but maybe, I don't know, in my experience, quite some women expect their partners to know what you're thinking when we are tired or sad or angry. I expect my husband to know what I need. The problem here is that mind reading blocks communication. So what do we need to do? Communicate, speak up. Either tell the other person specifically what you need, what you expect, or ask what do they expect and what they need. This can happen with a client, and I've seen many lawyers doing that with clients. They go with all their work done and they go directly to give the solution, and they don't listen, they don't ask. So they're assuming they know, and because they assume they know, they move along and maybe lose some information which may be important. So speaking up and asking or sharing, I need this, I want you to do that. That would be the main way to manage this thinking trap. The next thinking trap is personalizing. This is called the me personalization or trap. And this is basically when you think everything is my fault, right? And this is a big sense of guilt and sadness, because everything is about you and you are the cause of all the bad things that happen around you. Well, this is impossible. There are always things outside your control. So the way here to manage it is to look outward. So what are the other circumstances or other people did, or how contributed for that thing to happen? So think about whether you fall into that and whether you could look into those other circumstances. The counterpart of the personalizing is the externalizing. So it's all about them, and and they're all wrong. And I blame the weather, I blame the neighbor, I blame politics, I blame everyone. And none of it is my fault. That normally triggers a lot of anger. And all that anger and all that energy is blocking you from thinking more clearly. So what we need to do there is to look inward, to ask ourselves, how did I contribute? Okay, yes, there may be circumstances, all the people involved, but what could I have done differently? Okay, so that would be the way to address this thinking trap. The other one is very famous, catastrophizing. So basically amplifying and exaggerating the negatives. And this is very typical as well, people who ruminate. Worst case scenarios, which again, it may be, educationally and professionally typical for lawyers. So that's what we think, at least, because you have to think about what is wrong, what could be wrong, what is the worst case scenario, right? And this may create in us anxiety and passiveness, because if we think we are, it's not in our control, there is nothing we can do, it's so big, I don't have power to do anything. So I just step back and do nothing. That's where the passiveness comes from. So what can we do here? Well, first of all, like in any other of those traps, is being aware. Stop and think about it and being aware, being there with that thinking trap. And then be specific, because distracting your attention is an option, and I have it there as an option. It could help you temporarily, but at the end you have to address it, and you have to be specific about, this that I'm thinking is going to become so big. Is it real? Is it possible? Has it happened before? So try to gather information about whether this fear you have is real. This could happen, with the fear of going outside, for example, right now after the coronavirus, and we have to start going out and doing some normal life. And many people are going to be afraid to go outside. So think about it. Is it really dangerous? Well, yes, it is dangerous if you go to a group of people, if you're many people together, if you go to a place where, many people are without masks, etc. But if you go to a place where there is not so much people, if you have the mask, if you have your patterns of healthy patterns, then there is no problem. It shouldn't be a problem. So it's about being specific. And then the final one is emotional reasoning. And this is very interesting because basically we are taking our emotions as a fact. And just because we feel it, it doesn't mean we are that emotion. And I give you an example with jealousy. So if I am jealous, and I was very jealous, okay? When I was young, I was very jealous with my husband. And I thought that emotion was, it was true. Just because I was jealous, it was, yes, what I see is what I see. But actually, it was not real. I was creating in my mind some pictures and some reality that it was not real. So what we have to do there is basically to challenge our emotions and speak up. Go to the person and talk to them. Try to gather the information to see whether what we thought it was real is really like that. So it's possible to change our emotions and be more clear about whether it's true or not. So those are some thinking traps. There are many, many more, okay? Just to give you some examples and whether you're become aware about falling into any of them. So we have looked into each one of those 5 areas, which are giving us that more holistic resilience. And it would be nice to have the overview on where you are, holistically, and which areas you need to improve more or less. This is a kind of review of everything that we have seen, in case you want to have a look. And those are some additional resources. Of course, there are many more, but just to choose a few. The first 2 are 2 articles that I wrote in Spanish, but also talking about resilience, different things from the ones we have seen before. The next 2 are in English. Actually, the 4th one, Tips for Coping with Coronavirus-Induced Anxiety. This is from Larry Richard, who is a very well-known US lawyer and psychiatrist. And he has spent a lot of time studying lawyers and their behavior, etc. But actually, these tips can be useful for anyone, across any sector. Couple of videos. Amy Cuddy, you may know about her when I mentioned the triangle, and we talk about choosing our behaviors can impact our thoughts and our emotions. There you will see what I meant by that. And then at the end, you have this free survey that can help you to do your own survey and get a report with a lot of different tips. Many of them are similar to what you have seen today, but it's very useful. So I really encourage you to do it. And basically, this is what I wanted to share with you. Hopefully, it has served at least to have some thinking about where you are in your resilience. Now I will stop talking, too much talking, and see if you have any questions, any reflections, any additional materials, whatever you want to share, please do. Thank you so much. Let's close in here and see if I can see your faces. Okay. So nice to see some of your faces. Hi, Maria. Any questions, any reflections, any of your own experiences during this confinement time? Anything you want to share? No? What have been, I'm interested with Maria, with Patrick, and SP maybe, because with Sarah, also with Sarah and Antonio, I mean, what have been your experiences, for example, with mindfulness? Because I know Ferran here present as well is a professional about it, and SP as well. So I would be interested to know, what is your point of view? What is your own experience? Whether you have gone through any kind of training, whether you do it, and if you don't do it, why? I would be interested in that particular topic. Patrick?
Yeah, you mean training on resilience, or broadly?
More specifically on mindfulness or meditation. Not sure if you have ever gone through, I mean, in DuPont, I don't remember, I remember in some areas we were doing some practices, DSS was doing it, but I don't know the rest of the businesses.
I don't think, I don't recall anything along that,
Okay.
And it's probably not something I've ever come across, really.
Really? Okay.
You know.
Good to know. Good to know.
It's very funny because I was on a webinar yesterday or the day before about the way companies have to adjust to the coronavirus and all that situation. And it's very funny because the parallel was really about reinventing the why for a company and what is exactly the purpose of the company, rather than focusing just on the profit and cash flow and all that. And it's very similar to what you describe here in terms of resilience, as to why you're here, what's your purpose, and what's important,
right,
and what's not.
Right. Let's see if what we went through has some kind of impact moving forward. I'm very skeptical. I'm the most skeptical of of all, but still I have hope that somehow it would impact, and we will open our eyes to how important training ourselves in those skills is. But let's see. Exi, did you want to share?
Yeah. Hi, Luna. Well, thank you so much. This was super insightful. And yeah, I mean, our mind is such a complicated thing or object, and you explain it really clearly. And I guess my experience with meditation and mindfulness, it's been that in order for me to work, I have to keep very small promises to myself. So if I set a goal to meditate 20 minutes every day, generally it doesn't happen. I mean, I try, and there are some periods in my life where I can actually do this, but it helps more when I just set a small goal that is reachable, and given my circumstances now. And for me, consistency, even if it means just 5 minutes a day, helps me a lot because I'm training my brain to just like sit down, even if it's just for 5 minutes. So that's been my experience. And yeah, I'm curious about what your experience is. How do you do it, and how do you put it in your schedule and all of these things?
Thank you for that. Very briefly, I mentioned part of it. So yes, I'm very action oriented. Very so for me, it's very difficult to be 20 minutes meditating. So it's not realistic. I do sometimes with my daughter because she has entered into this a little bit. Yes. And we do sometimes together when she's a bit anxious or nervous, and we do longer ones to go to sleep. But normally this happens maybe twice, 3 times per month. So not too much. For me, is before going to sleep, doing some breathing. That helps me a lot to go to sleep, actually, and to stop my brain from thinking. And then, as I was saying, during the day. So like now during the call right now, choosing consciously to be more focused and not so much thinking about what I have to say, or eating, or with my partner listening, this kind of small moments, or looking through the window and see that tree and pay attention to the tree and enjoy the tree. Or, with the hands, a friend of mine recently lost, not recently, some time ago, but she lost her hands and feet because of a virus. And that makes you aware. We're not even aware about things that we have so simple, like touching our skin, touching our daughter's skin. Imagine not being able to do it again. So being aware about those little things, feeling the fresh water in my hands as I wash them in the morning, these little things is what I do to practice my mindfulness in a very, micro mindfulness way.
Yeah.
But how others, Ferran or anybody else who wants to share?
Yeah, if I may share something. Something that drew my attention is and resonated me, the fact that resilience is connected with facing, being face to face with your fears and your problems. And basically resilience comes from the inside. You may learn things from other people, but in the end, you build your resilience by yourself, by being patient, being confident, and most important, I think, you need a reference person who, to some extent, shows you the path, and then you follow the path. And as to meditation, I always insist on having this reference person, this guide, someone who tells you, well, don't worry if you just don't meditate, not even 10 minutes a day. A master of meditation, Bob Stahl, which I mentioned in a comment at the chat. I've been to several retreats with him, and he's a really wise person. And he says, well, did you meditate today 30 minutes? That's great. You meditated 20 minutes, that's great. 10 minutes, that's fantastic. 5 minutes, that's okay. You didn't even meditate, well, you have a new chance to do it tomorrow. So after all, you acknowledge where you are, how you feel, what your thoughts are. That's more or less part of the triangle. And that acknowledgement leads you to action, indeed, because it allows you to direct to what it helps and what you think it helps. And in resilience and in meditation is just having the intention and focusing on that. And we are human. We are going to be wrong. We are going to miss meditation occasions, and that's life.
The interesting, thank you for that. The interesting thing, Farhan, as well, you reminded me, of course, we didn't go into detail here, but the definition of mindfulness is also at the end about being non-judgmental. And I love that part with myself because I am very judgmental with myself. And I know lawyers, for example, are as well. So the fact of saying, Luna, whatever you're doing right now, is great. It's great you tried. It's great you did it. It's great, you know, very good, very good. It makes me feel so good. So, so that idea of whatever you're doing great because you're just trying. That's really nice and very useful. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, realizing how biased we are.
Yes, with
And
ourselves even. It's
How
incredible.
many filters we place before us,
Yeah.
between reality and us.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's a funny game to do, not judging or realizing when you're judging, because we do it 1,000 times a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very nice. Thank you for that.
Thank
Any
you.
other comments or any other ideas or before we close? That's okay. Well, thank you so much. You know where to find me in LinkedIn. So any questions, any other comments, please let me know. And this was really a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Take care. Take care.
My pleasure.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.